Round one of the greatest rivalry in sports. And this year, there's a pair of former AAU teammates and presumptive top 5 draft picks squaring off head to head. Let's get it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Friday. It is Duke Carolina Eve, round one, and we are here with a crossover. JJ Jackson, the host of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm Isaac Schade, the host of Locked On Tar Heels, and we are elated to be with you. You're joining us at the place to get your Blue Devils and Tar Heels content every single day, all part of the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. JJ and I are both so grateful to all of you for making this your first listen or watch of the day to kick your weekend off the right way, right, JJ? Let's go. Special shout out to all our everydayers and all the people who are here with us all the time. It's because of you that this is so great. This episode's brought to you by Mazda, who puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda, because there's more to you. Here's where we're going on the show today. Look, there's nowhere else we can start than the head-to-head matchup at the power forward position in this game. As I struggled 18 times to say that you only heard one of, a pair of former AAU teammates squaring off and guys that are presumptive top 5 picks in the draft. We'll get to that. We'll take a look at the Blue Devils. We'll take a look at the Tar Heels, make some game predictions, other big storylines. But JJ, man, this parallel universe that Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson are living right now is something special to watch.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these guys have been talked about all year, and even going into the season, there were high expectations for them to deliver. Someone like Cameron Boozer, who's following in the shoes of Cooper Flagg and what he was able to do, not only at Duke, not only in the ACC, but all of college basketball. And it feels like there's been no drop-off there whatsoever. And then you look at the Tar Heels side of things, and you've got this premier freshman, one of the first big-time freshman recruits that we've seen for North Carolina in a really long time. And Caleb Wilson has had really high expectations. He's got an unbelievable personality to go along with it. He's outspoken. He gets into the game. He's fired up. He's emotional. And the fact that they used to play together on the same team, dominating and winning a Peach Jam title, all of that just makes for such a special friendship and storyline, but I know they'll be fired up and super competitive come tip-off, and I can't wait to see it unfold.
And, of course, shouts to Caden Boozer as well, who was teammates with those guys on Night Riders. He just doesn't get the notoriety that his brother or Caleb does, and that's okay because he's a stud too. We'll talk about him later, of course. But, JJ, what you talked about Caleb's personality, and that's funny because Cam is this kind of even keel kind of, he'll get fired up sometimes, but it is interesting that they're both so productive in both, like I know Cam isn't leading all 5 statistical categories like Cooper did last year. But I mean, he's right there on the edge of it. Right. And just dominating, helping Duke in major ways. I mean, just whatever's needed on any given night is willing to do that to make this team win. And like when you look at both of their games, JJ, like what stands out to you about each of them?
Yeah, I just think that their competitiveness is an easy one to look at there because, I mean, it's in the long season when everybody's got, they're looking forward to March Madness and the ultimate goal of winning these championships. It's easy to get ahead of yourself and what could be next. And they just feel bought in to every single game. I think Cam Boozer specifically, his ability to be efficient from all areas of the floor and scoring the basketball at a rate in which he does, he has not had a bad game truly so far this season. There have been bad halves where he's not involved whatsoever. And, he opens up the game and at halftime you're looking there and it's 4 points on 3 shots. And where has Cam Boozer been the whole time? And it's like someone woke him up in the locker room. I'd like to think Jon Scheyer and his teammates are one of the biggest reasons why, or maybe his dad, Carlos, and mom, Cece, who have been at every single game so far this season, kind of letting him know, get going. And then that 4-point first half turns into a 20-point second half en route to a big Duke win and that sort of thing. So his ability to score the ball in the bucket has been impressive. And then looking at Caleb Wilson, I mentioned his competitiveness. The athleticism, I think, is truly special. That's what really caught people's attentions when you think about an athlete like Zion or even Cooper Flagg a year ago flying through the air and really able to play above the rim, block shots, send the ball millions of seats into the into the seats there. And I think that's one of the big things that jumps out to me for him. What about you?
Yeah, exactly what you said. With Caleb, you let off, and I think it's funny. As good as he is a basketball player, it really is his infectiousness as a person, his personality, his he has basketball gravity, but he's got personality gravity, and it's in a good and fun way, right? Like he isn't being he wears a chip on his shoulder, but not in any detrimental way where it's like, I'm going to lift me up and tear you down. It's just like he talked to Coach Micah Shrewsbury from Notre Dame, who they had cut him from a Team USA moment, and he thanked him for cutting him because of the drive it gave him. Not in a way of like, "Ooh, I got you," but like legitimately like, "Dude, thank you," because that spurred me on in a healthy way, right? And so I love that about Caleb. I think it's cool that they're both leaders. I think that's a nuance we should pull out. Jay Williams was talking on the Carolina broadcast the other night, JJ, about how he thought it was so interesting that Caleb Wilson is the guy leading Carolina out of the tunnel. And he said, and I think it's really cool because Cam Boozer does the same thing for the Blue Devils. So you see each of these guys not just being silent assassins, but dudes who are legitimately carrying their team. And I think even that brings a fun wrinkle to the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, earlier this week, we saw stretches where Cameron Boozer didn't play for a good bit in the game against Boston College for Duke, and you kind of saw the big fall off that they had there in that second half against the Eagles. But looking at these guys, like you said, yeah, I love that they're the guys leading them out in the tunnel and getting them excited for a game like this. Obviously, Cameron Boozer grew up in this rivalry when your dad played in it and you've watched it your whole life. You know all the magnitude and stakes of it. And Caleb Wilson is a well-educated basketball player, basketball fan, basketball everything. So you clearly know that he's been bought in over the years to the rivalry and whatnot. And you're right. I like that a lot of the personality and whatnot doesn't necessarily come off as braggadocious from Caleb Wilson, but he'll still let you know how he feels. I mean, this is still a guy. Duke,
that's right.
It's circling this week. I mean, he did declare that North Carolina's putting belt to everybody this season, right? Especially Wake. I loved that part where he needed to call out Wake Forest, like that, just a drive-by shot at Wake Forest. But Duke's aware of that, and they're going to be ready to rock and roll. That's going to fire this game up even more, and just all the energy and everything in it. I can't wait for this game to tip off, man. And it starts at the top with these best players.
It does. And that's so, and what's funny about that though, is it's like we basically expect 20 and 10 and 5 from both of them. And so there's a way in which they are both going to be wildly productive in this game, but might ultimately cancel each other out. Right. And so I'm very curious to see if one of them can get enough of the edge on the other where that's not the case, or if it is the case where they essentially statistically cancel each other out. What players are the X factors? And I know that's what we're going to unpack as we go throughout the rest of the show, but that's just been an interesting thing for me to think on as we get to this game, JJ. But I mean, like, of the 32 NBA franchises, over under 31 and a half teams sending somebody to represent them at this game.
Yeah, they want to see every player on the floor in some respects, and you certainly want to see the best two players for each team go at it and make things work. I can't wait, man.
Man, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Well, we do want to dive in to the Duke side of things beyond just the Cam Boozer, his brother, Cam's front court teammate, Patrick Ngongba, and everybody else for the Duke Blue Devils. How's things going to shake out? We'll get to that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Y'all, it's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of the action with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. So whether you're backing the favorite Seahawks, you're riding with the underdog Patriots, or you're building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. The perfect way to cap off the season with making the Super Bowl more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. Hey, and this is cool. If you're a new customer, you can bet just $5. And if you win, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. JJ, Seahawks favored by 4.5 in this bad boy. Who you rocking with for the Super Bowl?
Dude, I can't wait. I love that this is the matchup that we've got, the Mike versus Mike game when you look at the first names of the head coaches and the story that Sam Darnold has had coming back. I got to ride with the Seahawks, Isaac. I think it's Seattle's to lose.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. All right, guys, Super Bowl coming up Sunday. Make it count. If you can wake up, I mean, you might be partying all night after this Duke Carolina game, but get up in time for the Super Bowl at least. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This episode's also brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Look, tax season doesn't have to take over your life, because this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. JJ, dude, I don't know about you. Tax season wildly stresses me out, and the idea of not having to deal with it all makes me so happy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's it comes around every single season or every year, and the TurboTax is the way to help you out with that.
What's cool is they have this full service capability for you where you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert start to finish without that stress that we're talking about. So instead of us, JJ and I, poring over the forms trying to figure it out, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online if that's better. They handle everything from your W-2s to your self-employed forms, which JJ and I need for all our Locked On pay stubs. And they're going to work to get you every deduction they can possibly find. It's a huge time saver. Again, real peace of mind. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book an appointment today. JJ, we're right back into this thing. And as we do so, we want to thank all of you for making Locked On Blue Devils and Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch of the day. And man, making Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. It's incredible stuff. We're honored, truly honored to be a part of it. And as always, it's because of all of you that come here every day to hang out with us. Thank you. If you want to be an even bigger part of things, check out the brand new Everydayers Club. The links for that are in the show notes. JJ, let's turn our attention now to the Blue Devils side of things. Obviously, we've already talked about Cam Boozer, who leads the ACC in both scoring and rebounding. But my man, it is not just Cam. He cannot do it by himself. That would be very difficult, actually, to take Carolina or anybody 1-on-5. And so, JJ, I know you got a couple other players to watch. Who are you watching for the Duke Blue Devils?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when we look at this game in particular and what Duke has been over the last several seasons, Isaac. You know all about the freshmen year after year after year. This is a Duke team that a year ago goes all the way to the Final Four. The entire starting five was drafted into the NBA for only the second time ever in basketball history did something like that take place. So it's a lot of people to replace in your lineup. And traditionally, it's like, let's highlight more freshmen. And we're certainly doing that in Cameron Boozer. But it's guys further on the bench on last year's squad who have stepped into much larger roles this season and absolutely delivered. I cannot be more impressed with what Patrick Ngongba has done on the inside for Duke basketball. Patrick Ngongba II, that is. Shout outs to his pops. I think that for him, the body transformation that he put a lot of time into throughout the offseason was huge. Slimming down. The team loves to affectionately call him Slim Pat because his whole life he had been known as Big Pat. And they've already got Showtime Slim and Isaiah Evans. So that's kind of a locker room thing they're going inside the Duke basketball world. So Slim Pat has definitely made an impact on the defensive end of the floor, rebounding the basketball. His touch is unbelievably soft around the rim. And there are often moments in the game where I wish he'd be a little bit more aggressive on that side. He's knocked down 7 3-point shots this season. So he's a willing jump shooter. Not the best percentage-wise, but willing to take them, which I think is important for spacing. And then the other guy, Showtime Slim, man, Isaiah Evans. He is certainly somebody that plays with passion. You will see his personality out there on the floor. A Fayetteville, North Carolina kid in his sophomore season. Grew up a North Carolina Tar Heels fan, and yet the Duke offer comes through. Jon Scheyer was on him in the recruiting trail, and he switched it up, man, and now he's all Duke, all everything. And when he plays well, when he shoots the basketball well, that's when Duke really takes off. Here's a number for you in the Tar Heels, folks, Isaac.
Bring it.
Duke basketball is 28-0 in Isaiah Evans' career when he scores in double figures. Every time that man gets at least 10 points, which for a shooter, that's 3 jump shots and a free throw, and not difficult to get there for him. Duke has yet to lose a game when those things play out. And so as he goes, Duke goes, and I do think while we're highlighting the bigs, while we're highlighting Cam Boozer and Patrick Ngongba II, we're talking about Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar. Watch out for somebody like Isaiah Evans, because that 3-point shot could be a great difference maker for Duke in a game like this.
And for Carolina fans to know, to JJ's point about, the double-digit stat, Isaiah Evans has scored in double figures in all but 5 games for the Blue Devils this season. So important to watch there. Also, as somebody who's been called Slim most of my life because of my surname, I feel a brotherhood, not intended, with Isaiah Evans and Patrick Ngongba. That's good stuff there, JJ. And I love your point, man. That's something I definitely wanted to talk about. Is, we mentioned in the first segment that there's the potential for Cam and Caleb to cancel each other out. I think the same is true with the front courts in totality, JJ, with Ngongba and Henri Veesaar. Obviously, we got to think about Jarin Stevenson and Malik Brown as well. That's going to be critical factors, is those guys that come in next in the front court behind the big 2 for each team. But JJ, I think because of that potential where they might cancel each other out, in a lot of ways, this game could come down to the backcourts and the wings. So in addition to Isaiah Evans, who else are those guys for Duke that Carolina fans need to be aware of?
Yeah, Caleb Foster certainly is in his junior season at Duke. He's the most experienced player within in terms of years in the Duke basketball team. And what this rivalry means, he's the only guy that, knows what it's like to lose to the Tar Heels, as last year's squad was 3-0. And that's a feeling that Duke fans and Duke basketball players do not like. And so for Caleb to be that outspoken leader in some ways, letting the guys know we can't let this happen again, I think that's been really important. Some of his offensive scoring has been up and down throughout the year, but he's been much more consistent than he was as a sophomore, where pretty much everybody in America would have told you throughout last season, Caleb Foster is going to transfer at the end of the year. And that just did not happen. He's a lifelong Duke basketball fan. So unlike his backcourt mate in Isaiah Evans, who was wearing that other shade of blue growing up, the young photos of Caleb Foster, he's always wearing that Duke blue, and he loves this game so much. And so I think he's going to have a big time factor. And then, it'd be Caden Boozer and Cam's brother, obviously, who the scoring, he hasn't had this big output quite yet. I still think it's coming, and clearly very efficient. He loves to push the pace. You will see that with Caden Boozer. He is not afraid to get sped up whatsoever. But Boozer and Foster out of the backcourt are the 2 main guys to look out for. And then, who are those X factors? I think if Nick Hamenia and Dame Sarr can make those corner 3-pointers, Duke's won a lot of games this season when that's happened. There have been several games where they have been non-factors whatsoever, but those are the 2 kind of tertiary characters in all of this, in Sarr and Hamenia, who could really have a major impact in offensively how this game's played out.
JJ, it's funny, we talked about the parallel kind of storylines of Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson. It's felt like the same is true for each team's major international player that came over with Dame Sarr and Luka Bogavac, where there were massive expectations, I think, for both these guys from both of these fan bases. But truly, I think both of them have kind of taken more time than either of us expected to acclimate to the American college basketball game, to acclimate to America itself. How have you seen Dame Sarr maybe start to grow a little bit from maybe where he started the season?
Yeah, shame on us, man, because we just, we see these former professional basketball players overseas that think it's going to be such the smooth transition. And
that's a good word, man. Yes.
It hasn't happened. And so, but Dame Sarr has gotten more comfortable as the season has gone along. I think, understanding that the ball is not going to be in your hands at all times, that you're going to have to find a way to fit into a role has been so big. Dame Sarr played for FC Barcelona's professional team and in spurts was really good at knocking down 3-point shots in the corner, rebounded well, and played defense, and figured out, that's what I've got to do. There have been games this season where I look at the work that he did against Michael Brown Jr. and one of the Louisville wins that Duke had the first time they played the Cardinals. Michael wasn't able to go in that one, but really did a great job covering him throughout the course of the game. The bigger statement was after Ibuka Okori absolutely exploded against those North Carolina Tar Heels of yours. Dame Sarr said, "You're not scoring, brother. Like, I'm going everywhere you go, the concession stand, the bathroom, wherever. I'm going to be in your hip the whole time." And that was a big reason why Duke was able to get a good win, is because Okori was just not a factor in the game whatsoever. It starts with Dame Sarr buying into that defensive role. And when he's done that, his offense has kind of come along with it too.
JJ, one more big picture question about the Blue Devils, and then we'll carry on. Obviously, Duke right now undefeated in ACC play, coming in at 10-0 after that win against Boston College on Tuesday night. What is it that's allowing the Blue Devils to just roll in the way they are? You talked about earlier, lost all 5 starters to the NBA draft, and it's almost like in many ways they haven't missed a beat. A bit of a different team than last year, but does it very well at a high level. Obviously, there's some ups and downs, but at the end of the day, the scoreboard has had more points for the Blue Devils all 10 ACC games. Why is that?
Yeah, it's still something that I think is really fun to talk about, because you look on paper and the rest of the ACC is so much better than it was a season ago. And yet there are moments where you're watching Duke and you're thinking, I don't know that this team's better than the one last year. And yet they're 10-0 in league play. They're 21-1 overall in the season. They're winning all of these games comfortably. As of late, it's gone back to the defensive end of the floor. The second half against Boston College earlier this week, Duke was horrific in the second half offensively, but they didn't stop playing on the defensive side of the floor when it would have been easy to do that and let a team like Boston College get a little confidence and momentum and get back in. They didn't even hit the 50-point mark total on the game. So, I mean, it's a Duke team that lately has taken away the best player, made life really, really difficult on the defensive end of the floor, so on the offense for the opponent, and then found ways to be productive scoring with Cameron Boozer on the inside.
Man, that defense is something to behold for a second straight year. These teams, according to KenPom, are the second and third tallest teams in the nation, JJ. Crazy stuff. That's going to make for a lot of fun, a lot of positional size all over the floor. Now, when we come back, we're going to flip the script. JJ is going to ask me a little bit about the Tar Heels, what they got going on this year, and we'll get to all that and see if the Tar Heels can hand the Blue Devils that first ACC loss. Coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our friends at Mazda. JJ, this is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on screen. JJ, for both these teams, we've talked about Caleb Wilson and Cam Boozer, but beyond Cam, who is it for you that has really been the main difference maker beyond Cam for the Blue Devils to move the game forward?
Can I give Jon Scheyer some love, Shady?
Please
Can I
do.
go in the
Yes.
coach direction?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Goodness gracious. In his 4th year, the big highlight of the season for Jon Scheyer was becoming the fastest coach in ACC history to 100 wins. He has absolutely moved the game forward for Duke this year.
For North Carolina, I'm going to go with Derek Dixon. We'll talk about him in the next segment, but he's been a guy Carolina has kind of struggled to find where their point guard productivity is going to come from. He's now started the last 4 or 5 games, and it's really started to shift Carolina's offense into the gear that it needs to be. He has truly moved the game forward, and I think Carolina looks a lot better with him starting at the 1. These guys remind us, Coach Scheyer, Derek Dixon, of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and that I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, but what it took to get there is what makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, JJ, let's flip the script on this thing now. We're going to look at the North Carolina side of things, and I'm going to let you take the ship here and put me in the hot seat.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to kind of look at the Tar Heels perspective in this. So for all of our YouTube viewers and audience, you're able to see kind of the North Carolina players to watch that we want to highlight. We've had plenty of conversations already on one Mr. Caleb Wilson. I'm interested in your thoughts on the season from Henri Veesaar, Isaac, because this is a player that, yes, new to North Carolina, no, not new to Duke, with Arizona having played a home and home the last 2 seasons with the Blue Devils, and then ran into them in the NCAA tournament a season ago. So 3 career meetings for Henri Veesaar against the Blue Devils. The NCAA tournament game, he had a major impact. How have you seen this guy make his imprint known on the Tar Heels this season? Tell us about him.
Yeah, it's funny the full circle of that, JJ, with Caleb Love also facing off against the Blue Devils in an Arizona jersey after he left Carolina. And then actually a lot of Duke folks may not know, I think there was speculation about, man, is there bad blood between Caleb Love and Carolina? Caleb was actually one of the main voices of like, dude, yes, Henry, you need to go to Chapel Hill. And so big shouts to C Love for pushing Henri Veesaar to Chapel Hill. This dude, JJ, I'll start with this. Came into this season with 0 career double-doubles. He now not only has more double-doubles than Caleb Wilson, because Caleb's rebounding has slowed a little bit. He's only got 1 double-double in the past 7 games. And that's not because of points, of course, as you would imagine. So Henry not only leads Caleb now in double-doubles, 12-11, Henri Veesaar has the most double-doubles in the ACC, a guy who came into this year having never recorded a double-double in college in his multiple years at Arizona. What's unique about Henri Veesaar, unlike any big that Carolina has ever really had, is his ability to do it truly both inside and out. Like kind of famously, Coach Roy Williams had some bigs that maybe could shoot, but never really asked or allowed them to do so. And, but now obviously under Hubert Davis and in modern college basketball, that's very different. Henri Veesaar leads North Carolina in 3-point field goal percentage, JJ. He's only taken 2.8 a game, but there's something to be said about your starting 5 stepping out and knocking them down. And it could be just because everybody else is kind of sucking, and some of the guys aren't living up to what they should be as 3-point shooters. I'll point to Kyan Evans and to Luka Bogavac with that. But Derek Dixon is shooting very well from 3. And so Henry leads the way in that regard, shooting it at a 45.9% clip for the Tar Heels. But on the season in totality, he shoots 62.4% on all field goals. And so he's doing very well in that regard. Inside, outside, he can do it all. He's not like a big hulking big. And so one of my concerns with him is the capability of let's think about like a DJ Burns type player. I know he's not at NC State anymore, who could just root Henry out of the lane. And if so, Henry says fine, and he'll go to the perimeter and knock it down. The other thing that I'll mention about Veesaar is, as you can imagine, JJ, because I know this is true for Duke as well, both Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar, almost without exception, have seen double teams all season long. What both of these guys are very good at is being willing and capable passers to get the opposition in rotation, to get wide open looks, because Carolina is a very good passing team. They're just shy of 60% assist rate on the season, and Henry is a big part of that. And then the third thing I'll say about him is he, while I think Caleb and Seth Trimble are the main true leaders of this team, Henri Veesaar's emotional leadership, I think, really gets the whole team fired up.
Yeah, and I think you've perfectly displayed that, probably by choice here on the screen exactly with this photo from Veesaar. Tons of emotion and passion from him. I love it. Seth Trimble, man, this is a guy that I mentioned, Caleb Foster and some of the experienced Blue Devils being no stranger to a rivalry like this. That's also the case for Seth. I know in the offseason there was a world where maybe he wouldn't be playing in this rivalry for the Tar Heels. That's not the case anymore. He's one of their leaders, has had some injuries that he's dealt with throughout the course of the year. But, man, Seth Trimble knows what it takes to play in a game like this.
He does. JJ, when I was thinking about who for my 3 players to watch, Caleb Wilson and Henri Veesaar were the no-brainers. What I vacillated a little bit on who to put for that third player, because I think in terms of like importance or necessity or can't do it without them, Derek Dixon might have been the guy here, since he's now running the show starting the last 5 games for Carolina. But when I zoomed out and thought about it, I was like, there's no way it can't be Seth Trimble. He is the lone returning rotation player from last year's team. He is the guy that brings the senior leadership. And I think particularly in a game like this, where neither team has a ton of guys that have played in this rivalry a lot because of the day and age that we live in of college basketball, Seth Trimble's veteran leadership, his ability to help the guys know, like, hey, this isn't just another game. There's going to be different levels of emotion and craziness inside the Smith Center on Saturday, as there will be in Cameron to wrap up the regular season. And so I think his senior leadership and then his athleticism is another critical thing for this team, JJ. When he was out 9 games earlier this season in non-conference play with the broken left arm after a weird weight room injury, Carolina really missed that individual, like best on-ball defender. They missed his leadership on the floor, but also his athleticism. Carolina's fast break numbers are vastly different with and without Seth Trimble, as you can imagine. His reckless abandon at getting to the rim, being able to finish, getting out in transition. He's also a capable passer and playmaker as well. And so I think Seth Trimble, both his playmaking and leadership, are why I think he's so critically important to Carolina's success on Saturday night.
And then Caleb Wilson, a superstar in every sense of the word, as we've talked about throughout the year. I mean, certainly big-time players to watch for North Carolina in a game like this, Isaac. I don't know, man. I think we've got several storylines that we've knocked out here, and all that's kind of left is leaving it up to these players, man, once they throw that ball up in the air and kind of seeing how the rest of the magic unfolds for a game like this, dude.
Oh, JJ, it's going to be so much fun. It's funny how both teams had mostly comfortable wins earlier in the week, but I think we both believe our teams had second half look aheads that they suffered from earlier in the week. But no doubt, both will be locked in for a full 40 on Saturday night, college game day at the Smith Center. JJ, we don't have the FanDuel line as we sit here right now, but at least at KenPom, Duke is favored on the road by 6. What say you, sir? How does it play out?
Yeah, I think I want to go to the X factors once again, and it's just been something that's so true in this series. Through as many games as it's been played, this is the best rivalry in sports, as we teased in the open. You've got former AAU teammates squaring off. I know that they're going to get theirs, have these major moments. I hope that foul trouble doesn't make too big of an impact on these best guys, because I think about Cooper Flagg last season, got in foul trouble. It was like one of the only games in the year that he was able to do, one of the Tar Heel games there. But then it's other guys. Don't forget, in Chapel Hill a season ago, Malik Brown made 2 3-pointers for Duke that were critical. He only made 4 the entire year, and 2 of them came in the Smith Center. So could those X factors step up for Duke? That's something I want to kind of look at and see how it plays out. I got to ride with my guys. I don't know that I've ever picked North Carolina in a game like this in my life. It's not starting today, Shady. I got to ride with Duke. I think 6 points is a fair place to be. I think we're going to be on the edge of our seats for this entire game to play out. I think it will be a little more high scoring. But man, let's put the ball up in the air and let them play. But yeah, I like Duke to win this thing. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's interesting. Both of these defenses are rather good, but I do think a lot of times we end up seeing the scoring jump. North Carolina's kind of flipped, where it's now their offense that's wildly more efficient than their defense. In calendar year 2026, they're the second most efficient defense in the nation per Torvik. And so that's something to watch. I mentioned Derek Dixon as an X factor. I actually want to go to Luka Bogavac as my main X factor. As we talked about with Dame Sarr in the Duke section, he's taken some time to acculturate to America, to his teammates. He notably didn't even get his visa to be able to come to America till late in the game. He didn't even know he was going to be eligible to play until like a couple hours before the season opening game. And so finally, JJ, it feels like he's found what he needs to do to help this team, has gotten back to being a double-digit scorer each of the last 3 games for Carolina, now getting back over 20 minutes a game. And the other is Jarin Stevenson. While I think Malik Brown is critically important and gives Duke maybe the front court advantage because of what he brings as that third guy, Jarin Stevenson has found a new level of energy and effectiveness and assertiveness. If he can continue that, similarly, knock down a couple threes for the season. He's under 30%, but is hovering around 45% in ACC play from beyond the arc. So that's something to watch for as well. JJ, funny enough, I'm on a kick of reverse jinxing the Tar Heels. They're 3-0 since I've been doing so. So you ready for this?
Yeah, tell me.
Duke Blue Devils are coming to the Smith Center, and they are going to win on Saturday night. Carolina's going to cover the spread there. Things are going to be fine there, but Duke's going to win this thing 80-75. You heard it here first, and that's good news for the Tar Heel fans who are with us all the time, JJ. Any response to that?
I mean, look, whatever it takes to get your team to a victory. Like I said, my secret sauce is never picking against them, and it's in my heart that I can't do something like that. But look, we talk Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, best of friends, got to be enemies on the court. I go back to Gerald Henderson, Wayne Ellington, best of friends, got to be enemies on the court. Isaac Schade, JJ Jackson, best of friends. We just got to be enemies on the court, man. Let's get this game started.
That's right. It's going to be great. 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It's going to be electric. Absolutely cannot wait. The first of hopefully 3. I love it when we get one in the ACC tournament.
Yes, sir.
I wonder if we'll ever have a 4-time season. It's man, I don't know that my heart could handle all that, JJ. We'll see what happens. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here with us. If you haven't already subscribed to Locked On Blue Devils and Locked On Tar Heels, both on video and audio formats, go do that right now. It helps both our shows and the reach of them grow. If you haven't subscribed to our Everydayers Clubs, those links are in the show notes. Be great to check those out as well. Can't wait to be right back with you Saturday post-game. We will be live on the Tar Heels side of things, and then I know JJ and I will both have great Monday breakdowns for this game as well. Win, lose, or draw. Well, they can't draw because this isn't the NFL. We might get that in the Super Bowl. That would be wild. We'll see what. No, they'll play it out until somebody wins. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us. Locked On Tar Heels, Locked On Blue Devils, your team every day. Until next time. Peace.